Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inspire SA. Narcisse Mbuyu, and I'll be taking you throughout AI Tuesday. I'm sure you might be surprised. AI Tuesday on a Thursday. Wow. Um, we had to push back this episode for a Thursday because we had some delays in preparing for this episode, but we pushed it for Thursday as well because um it's like almost the new year, so wanted to have like back to back episodes. So AI Tuesday and tomorrow for .NET Friday with Tori, we also have another episode. So yeah, so that's why we having AI Tuesday on a Thursdays. I hope the Power Ninjas don't mind that are still that day. But yeah, so for today on AI Tuesday or for AI Tuesday, we'll be continuing what we started off last time, natural language understanding or cognitive services for languages. We went into detail last time, and we showed how to get started with no code, with no background, no coding background, and anybody can use it. It's open to anybody, everyone, whether you're a student, whether you're a teacher, whether you're businessman. You just use that tool on Azure and you can summarize documents. You can detect key phrases from your documents, etc. It was a pretty cool feature to discover and see. But for now, for AI Tuesday, we're gonna be doing the same thing using code. So we're gonna be making like 7 programs in a small matter of time. I'll be quick, but I'll explain everything and I'll be brief as well at the same time. So yeah, without any get wasting any time, let's get started. Um, let's get started. So there's my screen over there. Quick recap from last time, as you can see. Um, so as you can see from last time, we went through all of these key information as you can see on your screen. We went through extracting key phrases on the screen. We went through extracting key phrases on the screen. As you can see, extracting key phrases, finding entities, named entity recognition, personal identifiable information, custom named entity recognition, text analysis, text summarization, analyzing text, classifying text. All of these are subgroups that you can see: extracting information, classifying text, answering questions, translate text, understanding conversation. And over here, by classifying text, we have analyze sentiment and mind text for opinions, which we already did last time. Detect languages, detect what language is being, what language is on the text. Custom text classification, question and answering, translate text using machine translation on text, and conversational language understanding. So this is what we did last time out on Azure. So now we're gonna do the exact same thing using code. So for today, we're mainly going to focus on extracting information because we did classifying text in our first episode of natural language processing, as you can see. So if you want to check out more about classifying text, you can go back to the first episode or the first session that we did on natural language processing. And then after that, this answering questions, we're going to take a look as we conclude with natural language processing, as this has to do with Q&A or creating a chatbot. So now, so after this session, we're going to move on to translating text. So we're going to make our own translation in the next episode of AI Tuesday. And then lastly, understanding conversation. This has to do with Lewis. So we're going to jump into that after, like, towards the end. So this is what we're going to be focusing on today using code, right? So a quick recap from last time out. We're going to now jump to Azure, go to our web browser. So I'm on Azure right now, as you can see. I'm on Azure. Let me zoom in a bit. So as you can see, I'm on Azure, and in the previous episode, I showed you how to create your own, to create your resource for the natural language processing uh, service resource. I mean, so I showed you how to create your own the resources that you need. So if you want more information about that, please just take a look at the previous episode. I won't go through it now, but as you can see, I've already created my resource, and as will be crucial for what we'll be doing next, right? So after creating my resource, I went to then I'm now I want to go to the language studio. You might ask yourself, how do you go to language studio? You just search language studio, and it's gonna give you the link for you to go to the language studio, which is language studio, language understanding. I click on it. Let me zoom in a bit. So here's the link of it. Lewis, language understanding, Microsoft Azure, language cognitive.azure.com. So that's how you go to the language studio. As you can see, it's already open, and you just gonna sign in with your Azure account that you created, and there's it. So we went through this tutorial last week with Jessica and Somalese, and now we'll be doing the exact same thing using code, right? We're gonna do the exact same thing using code. So if you want to check out how to use all of this, please check out the previous episode. There's more details on that. So for to get started, what we're gonna first take a look at what's first on the list, extracting key phrases, right? So now we're gonna jump onto Visual Studio because that's what we'll be working on. As you can see, I already have Visual Studio opened. I'm gonna create a project. I'm gonna do everything from scratch so that you don't get left behind or I'm not too fast. Right. So creative, we're gonna be working with the console application. Console application, as you can see, console application. If you don't know how to get to a console application, just search console application. Console application is gonna pick up just now. You see it picks up console application, and then you choose for what platform we're going to be working the C# language, right? And click next. And then the first thing that we're going to do is going to say extracting key phrases, right? So that's why we're going to write as our name of our project, extracting key phrases. Extract key phrases. That's what I'm going to name it. Next, creating the project quickly. So I've already done the project. I'm just gonna go through it step by step and explain exactly what to do. And the code will be on a GitHub repository if you want access to it as well. I'll show you how to upload the project to GitHub repository and how to access it as well. But that's for .NET Fridays. We checked it out last time, as you can see. So now my project has been opened, right? So what's next, right? My Visual Studio is opened. Let's zoom in a bit so you can see the code. So now another feature of .NET 6 is no namespaces. There's no namespaces up here. A lot of namespaces that's hogging the space basically. So now that's been written out basically. It's still there, but it's hidden, right? So we're not gonna focus on that. It deserves its own episode. But for today's episode, we're gonna be right now we're gonna be working on the key phrases application, right? So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go to NuGet package, right? NuGet package. We're gonna go to tools. Let's just zoom in a bit. As you can see, I'm gonna go to tools, tools, and then NuGet package, tools, NuGet package manager, and then NuGet package for solution, right? So that's how you go to NuGet package, right? So now what we're gonna be looking for, right, in your NuGet package, let's zoom in more for clarification. I'm gonna be searching for Azure.ai, right? So we need like this API for us to work with for us to make our application basically. So I'm gonna choose Azure.ai.text analytics. That's what we need for us to get started with the application, right? And then we're gonna install it. Install, it's installing, it's installing, it's installing. Wait for it to install. Click OK. Accept. So there you go. The application has been installed, right? The NuGet package has been installed. So now we go to our program, right? And now we're gonna call the namespaces in, right? We're gonna call the namespaces in. So using system, we're now gonna say using Azure, so we can connect to Azure, and using Azure.ai.text analytics. That's what we just installed right now using our NuGet package. So now after installing a new package, we're gonna do it in steps, right? There's only three major steps that you have to recognize, right? You're first gonna create your connection to Azure, right? After creating your connection to Azure, you're then gonna create a method that will do whatever you want, that will analyze the text, that will extract the key phrases, etc. And then you're gonna output it. Basically, those are the three major steps that you're gonna need when dealing with this, right? So the first thing, as I said, we're gonna create our connection to Azure, right? Creating our connection to Azure, creating connection to Azure, right? Creating connection to Azure. So as you can see, I'm doing it outside the static method because of the because we want to call this method. So basically it's gonna do everything in the background, and then when we want to output it, we're just gonna call whatever the answer is from that method. Basically, that's what we're doing. So we're creating a connection to Azure, private static read only. So this is gonna connect to my Azure key credential and my endpoint. So if I go back to Azure, right? If I go back to Azure, where's Azure? There's Azure over here, and I go to keys and endpoint. Keys and endpoint. I click keys and endpoint. As you can see, I got key one. I got the key over here. I got my key. I already copied it, and then I also got my endpoint. So the key is like the special key for me to access my resource, and the endpoint. The endpoint is the address for me where my resource is located for my application to use it basically. So that's what I did. I've already entered my what my my key. So you're just gonna copy it and paste it as I did over there. And you're also gonna do the same thing and paste your endpoints over here as well. So that's the first thing, creating the connection to Azure. And then after that, we're gonna create our method to creating a method to extract the key phrases, right? Extract the key phrases. So now, as I said, I've already done it. I'm copying and pasting basically, right? Extracting key phrases. So I first said static void. I'm naming the method. That's the type of method I'm creating. Static void key phrase extraction example, right? And then I'm calling in the text analytics client from the text azure.ai.text analytics, right? I'm calling it in, and then I'm saying var response is equal to client.extract key phrases. So now this is what I want to extract the key phrases from. Basically, the statement that I want to extract the key phrases from. Client.key extract the key phrases. So this is the method to extract the key phrases basically. My cat might need to see a veterinarian, and then after extracting the key phrases, I just say print. I wanna output it. So I say console.writeline key phrases. So that's like the title, the header, and then for each key phrase that's been found in that statement, it's gonna output console.writeline space or dash and key phrases basically. So now that's what's going to happen in this method. So now after doing that, let's now go to our main method and call this method that we just created, called the key phrase extraction example method, right? So var client is equal to new text analytics client. So that's me calling the text analytics client that we just installed. I put my endpoint to the address basically and the credentials, right? The credential is what for me to connect to Azure basically, to connect to Azure. And then I'm calling the key phrase example client, and I'm putting the client as an example, like client as an example, um, client as an example, basically. Key phrase client as an example. So yeah, so client is like as you can see, client. Where is the rest of the client? So this is the client, the statement, the client that extract key phrases. So I'm putting this statement as my input basically. That's what it means. And then after that, I'm gonna exit the program. So that is simple as that. Let's run it out quickly. Run it out quickly. It's opened. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. So now it's running. So the key phrases that from that statement is cat and Vegetarian, right? Cat and Vegetarian. So those are the key phrases, like the key important things to focus on from that statement alone, which is pretty cool. So if I had to change uh, my cat's name is Bob and might and might need to see a vegetarian, right? So that's the statement that I just changed. Let's run it again and see what it says. That's just an error there. So it's running, right? So I changed the statement. So the statement is talking about a cat. That cat is a name, and it also includes a vegetarian. So it extracts the key phrases. So it's like you're using code and to make this thing. So instead of using it on Azure, you can now customize it and make it however you want, or use it to basically do anything that you want. Basically, um like as you make this simple application, you can use it for your assignment, you can use it for documentation that you need to analyze, finding what it's talking about. Basically, you can customize it using code, so you're not really limited as how you are on Azure. So that's the first thing, right? And now the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to where's my program? Okay, yeah. So now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna upload the program to Azure. So now on .NET and Azure Friday, we spoke about uploading the documents to Azure, right? So I can do it within Visual Studio. All I need to say is add to source control. Let me just find my mouse. Okay, zoom out a bit. Add to source control and then git. Add to source control and then git. So as you can see, add to source control and then git, and then it's telling me what the options or where I want to upload basically. Initialize the git, that's my local part where I can find it on my PC, and then create a new GitHub repository. Inspire say GitHub, the owner, I'm the owner, and then the repository name, key phrases, and then the description. I can put it the description if I want, but I'm not gonna do it for now. Move on, and I don't want it to be a private repository, anybody can access it. And then I say create and publish. I'm happy with everything. I just say create and publish, gonna publish basically, right? So now it's publishing. So now I'm gonna take out my key and you're gonna put your own one. So when you add your own key, add your own key, and I say add your own endpoint. Um, use your own endpoint. The reason why I'm doing this is because you can't put your key and your endpoint publicly, because if someone has access to it, they can use this to hack your Azure account, or misuse your credits that you have on a Azure account basically. So that is not a good practice for you to publish your keys for everybody to see and have access to it basically. So yeah, that's the first application done, right? That's the first application done. Let's see if it's been uploaded to GitHub. To Git push. Uh, Save first. So it's now adding to GitHub. We'll see it on GitHub just now. It takes only a matter of few minutes basically. It's easy as that. So that's the first thing that we did, adding it to get creating a the key phrase extraction using code. That's the first thing that we did. And now if we take a look on our GitHub repository, let's go to GitHub, and look, right? Look, MLSA inspire key phrases. So that's the application that we did, and you have access to it on our GitHub. You have access of the code on our GitHub basically. So yeah, that's on GitHub. Now moving on. So I'm closing this application and we're moving on to the next part of our program. So that's one done, six more to go. So that's extracting key phrases. You're creating your own key phrases using code, right? So closing this since it's saved. The next one is find linked entities. I'm gonna open Visual Studio again, right? Open Visual Studio again. I'm gonna open Visual Studio again. Find linked entities, right? That's what we're doing. Find linked entities. So linked entities is basically, as I mentioned last time, you finding uh, entities or objects in statements like a location, like a name of someone, etc. You're finding it inside the statement or document that you have open basically. So I'm going to open a new project, still console application. Next, now I'll be moving a bit faster since we know the drill. We're still gonna follow the same properties or same steps. First of all, creating the method. Creating a connection to Azure, creating a method, and lastly, calling the method and producing an output. Those are the three steps that we're gonna follow again for the same application. Right? Same application. Same application. So Azure is opened. Same thing again. We're gonna go to NuGet package. We're gonna go to tools, NuGet package manager, NuGet package for solutions. We're gonna install the same AI API that we use, Azure.ai, Azure.ai. Let's call it again. Go to browse. So you see um, there are different tabs: browse, install, update, consider late. So we're gonna click browse and search Azure.ai, and then after searching for that, the first result, Azure.text analytics. Click the project to install in your project. It's installing, and then click OK to install. Accept terms and condition. So this is like an API, application programmable interface that allows us to use the text analytics services on Azure basically. So that's what it does. So as I said, the first step is to create a connection to Azure, right? And we're gonna do it outside the main method because we're doing everything in a method, and then we're just gonna call it when we want to output it. So, first things first, I forgot, is to call our namespaces, right? Call our namespaces software we have using system, and we're gonna add using Azure and using Azure.ai text analytics, Azure to connect to Azure, and Azure.ai text analytics is to use the text analytics services or text analytics methods in within this namespace basically. So now after calling our namespaces, we're now going to establish our connection to Azure. As I said, I've already done this. So to spread the typing and everything, I've created private static read only. I'm adding my key credential, my key to my resource that I created to Azure. There's it over there. And my endpoint, my address to Azure, as you can see, it's over there. So now after establishing connection to Azure, you just put a method there. I'll comment connection to Azure, right? Connection to Azure. And then after that, we're gonna create our method, right? A method to to extract the key entities. Method to extract the key entities, and that's what we're gonna do now. So static void, right? Entity recognition. So it detects entities in a statement, and I'm calling. So that's the name of my method, and now I'm calling the text analytics client, right? And using that as an object. So this is like object oriented programming. So I'm gonna whatever method is in this text analytics, I'm gonna access it through client, basically. So that's like object oriented programming, and then I say client dot recognize entities. So that's the method from that we use to recognize the entities and the statement. I had a wonderful trip to Seattle last week, right? And then we're gonna output whatever response that we get. So console the right line named entities, and that's the header. And then for each entity that is found, right, in this statement, yeah, in the client dot recognize entities, we're gonna output console.writeLine entity.text, right? And then we're going to output the category that is found in, and we're going to output the subcategory that is found in, that entity is found in. How confident is the how confident is the AI that is show it's that it is what it is, the length of it and the offset. How off is it from, basically? That's what offset means. And as you can see, entity.text, entity.category, entity.subcategory, entity.confidence score, entity.length, entity.offset. It's easy as that. So if I, for example, take that out and call them to the namespace, let me zoom in for you to see. I have confidence, right? I have confidence, I have category, I got length, I got offset, subcategory, got text. So now this is like object. All these are predefined methods that are already created for us, and all I want is the text. Basically, it's easy as that, right? So we call it on. So that's to output, and now I'm gonna call it into our main method, right? I'm gonna call it into our main method. uh, Call our method and put our endpoint and credential, and then call the method that we just created, entity recognition example client, as you can see, and add the statement that we want to output, and then make a statement to exit the program once it's done. Let's run it, right? Let's run it. It's running, it's running, running, it's running. As you can see, named entities found. It found three entities: trip, right, Seattle, and last week. So trip, it falls under event, and sub that's the it that does not have any subcategory. How short it is 0.74. The closer it is to one, it's between 1 and 0. So the closer it is to one, that's how short it is. The length of the word is 4. TRIP, those 4 letters, and offset, how off is it, is 18. And then we've got Seattle. Seattle is the location, and the subcategory is a GPE. Like I think it has to do with like geolocation, something like that. And it's sure, as you can see, it's 1. Length is 7, offset is 26. Last week, it's a date and time. It falls under category of date and time. Subcategory date range. So that's a range of the date, right? And score 0.8. That's how sure it is. The length is 9 and the offset is 4. This is pretty cool, right? So we got five more applications to go through. So I won't do another example, but I'm just gonna leave a message over here. Add your own key, right? Add your own key. Add your own endpoint. Add your own endpoint, right? Add your own endpoint. So you just go to Azure, get your key and your endpoint, and paste it there. Simple as that. And now what I'm gonna do is just add this to GitHub, so you have access to it, basically, right? So it's easy as that. Through Visual Studio, I'm just adding it to GitHub. But first, save your application. I didn't save it, but now I've just saved it and I've published it to GitHub successfully. So if I go to GitHub and refresh, um, let's go to my repository. Let's open this one. This is how I go to my repositories basically. So we just raise the repositories. Okay. So it hasn't been uploaded to it yet. Let me add source control again. And let me not make it private. I didn't check the private setting last time. Publish. So it's adding to source control. Basically, I think you have to do it 2 times for it to go through GitHub, right? It's adding to GitHub. Let's double check it. Refresh. It should say 3. Detecting named entities. As you can see, I'll click. Now the project is on GitHub. We have access to it basically. So now that the second application done, we're moving on to the next one. I'm gonna save this one and close it. Right, you can simply clone it and have access to the application. So we did the named entities. So now we're gonna do find linked entities. Right, we're almost there. We got 5 more left to do. Find linked entities. Find linked entities. So we're gonna open Visual Studio again. We're gonna do this until we get through the thing. Find linked entities. Let's see how fast we can do this one. So find linked entities, console application, next. So this one is linked entities. Let's put it linked entities, linked entities. Next, .NET 5.0 create. It's creating. Again, 3 simple steps: connection to Azure, method, and calling the method out. That's the 3 simple steps that we're going to follow. Creating a connection to Azure, and then creating a method to find the linked entities in the statement, and then outputting the results from that method. Those are the 3 simple steps that we're going to follow, right? So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to quickly go to NuGet Package Manager console to install the API or the NuGet package that we're going to need. Azure.ai. Call it again. Wait for it to load. What? It's not showing. Azure.ai. Okay, there's it. It's showing. Click on it. Install. Accept. And we go to program. So it's been installed, and then after that we call our namespaces again. So but this time it's a bit different, right? We're gonna add one more namespace from our usual one. We're gonna add using system, right, which was already there. We're gonna call using Azure to connect to Azure, and then we're gonna call using Azure.ai.text analytics, and then we have something else using system.globalization. So now we're gonna use some methods from system.globalization, which I think has to do with like lists, if I'm not mistaken. It has something to do with lists, but we'll find out more about it as we go through the program. So now that's the first thing that we had to do. Now the second thing is creating a connection to Azure again. So I'm gonna do it outside the main method. Like I said, it's a separate method on its own. Connection to Azure. Connection to Azure. Right. I create my connection to Azure by putting my key that I got from Azure and my endpoint from that I got from my resource. So basically, as I said, just go to Azure right? Go to Azure, you click keys and endpoint, and you copy your key, you copy your endpoint, and you paste it in between the inverted commas. Basically, that's how you can create your connection so that the application can use the resource on Azure. That's what we do. That's what we're doing that for, right? And now we're gonna create our method to find the linked entities. Right, we're gonna create a method to find the linked entities. So static void. So that's the type of method that we're creating, and the name of our method is called entity linking example. And we're gonna put in the text client. As I said, this is just an object-oriented programming. So I'm whatever all the methods in this, I'm gonna access it through client, through the name client, as you can see. Var response is equal to client that recognize linked entities. So this is where I add my statement. Microsoft was founded by Bill Gates and Paul Allen on April 4th, 1975, to develop and sell basic interpreters for the All-Star 8000, right? So that's like the default statement that we're going to use to find the linked entities, right? So as you can see, client dot recognized entities. So this is a method on its own, already pre-programmed for us to just extract the entities for us, right? So after it's finished extracting the entities in this statement, we're gonna output the results. So first thing we're gonna output is we're gonna output a title. So make it nice and fancy. Console the right line linked entities, and then for each entity that's found, we're gonna output the name, right? The name of the entity, the date source, the data source, like the link to it, the data source, and then the link to that entity. So basically, linked entities is like it picks up an entity and it gives you a link for you to find out more information about that entity. And then it's also gonna tell us about how confident the results are. Basically, that's what it's gonna do in this for each loop, in this for each loop. And then the next thing we're gonna do is output the method or output the results in that method in the main method. So basically, call the method out. That's what we'll be doing. Uh, call the method out. Call the method out. I think I have done a mistake. Yeah, let's do that properly again, right? So now we've called the client and put our endpoint and credential. We call the client that we'll be working with, which is that, right? And we made something to just exit the program easily. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna run the program and let's see the results, right? Let's see the results. Let's see the results. Let's see the results, right? Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. So linked entities, the header, Microsoft is a linked entity. ID, Microsoft, that's the ID is given. And then the link on Wikipedia for me to find out more information about Microsoft. Data source, Wikipedia. That's where it's getting the data source. How sure it is, Microsoft 0.55 takes 0.55. That's how sure, how confident it is. The next entity that is found in the statement, Bill Gates, ID Bill Gates, the link to find more information about Bill Gates. The source of this link is Wikipedia. How confident it is about Bill Gates 0.63. As I said, the closer to one is, the more confident it is. So it's not really that confident, I would say. And so on. I won't go through the rest of the example, but this is really cool. I won't lie. Like, I really won't lie. So you can create it and customize it to your liking, basically, right? We don't have time for more examples, but that's how you do it using code. And now I'm going to upload this to GitHub once more. So you have access to it. Um, you have access to it. So it use your own key. Just a small message, use your own key. And then use your own key. Use your own endpoint, right? Use your own endpoint. So that's done. Save the application, and then add it, add a source control. Basically, upload it to GitHub. I want it to be I don't want it to be a private repository. Anybody can access to it. So first of all, so the first add Git source control, you're creating a Git a repository locally on your system, and then whatever is on locally, it's gonna upload it to GitHub. That's all you have to do it 2 times. Create and push, right? Adding source control to our system, creating a local one, and then if we go to GitHub, apparently there's a message here. It's already been created. Let's refresh. Oh, that number is turned to 4. Linked entities. Right, that's the new project that we just created right now. It's public. Anyone can access it basically. So that's the third application down. Um, so we have 4 more left to go. 4 more left to go. In fact, 3 more. I said 7. 4 more left to go. I mean, yeah, we meant 6 applications. So we have 3 more left to go. Let's do it quickly. And then the next thing that we're gonna do is detect personal identifiable information. Right? We're going from hardest to from easiest to hardest. So the next one on the list is personal identifiable information, PII detection. You know, so the first thing I'm gonna do is open a Visual Studio again, do the same steps again. Very simple, easy to get started with basically, right? Create a new project on Visual Studio, console application. So we're doing this on the console application, but the same concept it can be applied on the web application and even on the mobile application. Basically, you just call the API, connect to Azure, create your method, and output it in your application. It's simple as that. So let's give this a name. I'm gonna call it detecting personal identifiable information. Right, that's the name. I'm gonna detecting uh detecting personal identifiable info. That's the name of my application. Again, I'm going to upload it to GitHub so you have access to it. Uh, so yeah, this is really cool. I won't lie. This is really cool. So again, same steps again. Go to NuGet package, install the API or the NuGet package for text analytics on the NuGet package manager console or the NuGet package manager. Azure AI, out, Azure, Azure.ai. You can find many packages over here, but we're looking for specific one, which is Azure.ai.analytics. Install. Okay. Okay. I accept. Right. So now it's been installed. So now we're gonna call our namespaces again. Call our namespaces again. Using Azure, using system, and using Azure.ai.analytics. You know, guys, copying and pasting is easier than typing. That's one of the reasons I prefer it. So again, the 3 steps: connect to Azure, create your method, and lastly, call out your method in the main method. Those are the 3 simple steps that we're doing. So detecting identifiable information is basically detecting personal information in the text, right? So we're gonna see the results of this one, which is pretty cool again. So now connection to Azure, as you can see, um, in the wrong place. So let's put it in the right place outside the main method. Boom, now it's working fine. Let's put a small comment, connection to Azure, right? Go to Azure, to your resource that you created, get the key and the endpoint and paste it here as I pasted my one over here, as you can see. So now my connection is set. The next thing is we're creating a method to detect the personal identifiable information from the text or document that I've opened, right? So now the name of my method is recognize personal identifiable information example. And then again, object oriented programming. I'm going to access all the methods through this client, through this name client. So string document, right? So now string is my variable type, document is the name of the variable. A developer with social number 859 whose phone number is 8800 is building tools with our APIs, right? So that's the statement that we're gonna be using, right? So now the next thing is we're gonna say this is a collection, like a method with full of collection, personal identifiable entity collection, right? Entity, that's the name of the collection that we're creating, is equal to client dot recognize dot entities dot document dot value. So now we're creating a collection, right? We named it entities, and now we are assigning that collection the collection that we're creating to all the entities that's been found through this statement. Basically, that's as simple as I can explain it. Client that recognize personal identifiable entities in this document dot value, right? So now it's gonna get the value of the entities that it has found, right? And now we're gonna output whatever we found. So now let's move on. Console the right line, redacted text. Redacted text means it's been hidden. There's some part of it that's been redacted, that's been taken out, or that's been hidden. Basically, that's what redacted. So it's gonna output the text with the redacted text, entities dot redacted text, right? So it says if entity dot count is greater than zero. So you see, we got the value over here. If it's less or greater than zero, we're gonna that means there are entities that's been found and we're gonna output them. But if it's less than zero, right, there are no entities found, so we're gonna output the message console the right line, no entities were found, right? But if there are entities, this is what's gonna happen, right? Console the right line recognize entities is gonna say how many entities that it found, and then it's gonna say how many entities that it found. So for each entity that it found, it's gonna output the text, the category of the entity, the subcategory, and the confidence, how confident it is. Basically, it's as simple as that. So we created a connection to Azure, and then the next thing that we did is created a method to to detect a personal identifiable information from the text that we have. And now lastly, what we're gonna do is call out the method, right? Call out the method in our main method. So as you can see, I've been working outside the main method. Now I'm in the main method, calling out the method. For our client, I put my endpoint and credential, call out my method that we created, and put the variable or input that I want to work with. And then this is just to exit the program once I'm done, right? Now let's save and run. Save and run. It's running. This is pretty cool. This is really pretty cool. So now, so this is our text. So as I said, redacted text is been hidden. So all the personal identifiable information that's been found is been hidden with asterisks, as you can see. A asterisk with social number, asterisk with phone number, is asterisk is building tools with our API, right? So now if we move forward, it recognized three personal identifiable entities. So it found three identities, right? As we said, we want the value, so it found three values inside the text that we had. Developer, social number, and phone number. So developer is a category person type. Subcategory has no subcategory. Confidence score is 0.97. So that it's really sure of this developer. And then we look at the social security number. It tells you US social security number. So that's like the ID, or I don't know what the social security number. I'm sure one of our friends can tell us. The subcategory doesn't have a subcategory. and it's 0.65 sure. So it's not really sure, I would say. And this is the phone number. It has no subcategory. It's also 0.8 sure. This is pretty cool. I tried it out with the South African one. I put my South African ID, and it showed me South African ID number, which is pretty cool. So try it out yourself. Let me exit the program. Try it out by yourself. It's pretty cool. I won't lie. So I'm just gonna add a little note for you. Add your own key. Add your own key. Add your own key, and add your own endpoint. Add your own endpoint. Add your own endpoint. Right. Save it, and then add to source control or upload to GitHub. So we're gonna elaborate more on this tomorrow in tomorrow's episode, hopefully. Create and publish. Create and publish. So it should be finished now. So I go to GitHub. You see 5 repositories. 5 repository. Detecting personal identifiable info updated just now, which is pretty cool, guys. It's easy as that, uploading to GitHub. So we're about to finish. We got 2 more, or in fact 1 more. So we're gonna close this one and go back to open a new Visual Studio instance. So you can put everything in one application, but I'm doing it separately so that you can get the hang of it and you don't see it that complicated, right? So now we're gonna do health, text analytics for health, right? Text analytics for health. So we're gonna open Visual Studio again, same thing, and then create a new project. And we're gonna name our project. First of all, choose content application, and then text analytics for health, which is really cool. When we saw it last time, this one's for you doctors. If you're into programming, create, right? Again, the 3 simple steps: connection to Azure, method, output. 3 simple steps, right? But firstly, before we implement those 3 simple steps, you get package manager console, get the API. Get the API, you get package manager console. Azure.ai. Text analytics, and then install. It's installing. Let it install. So it's been installed. So now we're gonna call our using namespaces. So we're gonna call out our namespaces that we'll be using throughout this program. And then type it here quickly. Done. Simple as that. So we're using Azure to connect to Azure, using the system, the system functions that we're going to be using in our coding, the Azure.ai text analytics, the API that enables us to use the text analytics on Azure, system the collection the generic, and system the threading the task. So this is used when you're using async methods. Oh, big names, async methods and stuff like that. But we'll find out more about it on Azure.net Friday because it falls under that. So first thing I'm gonna do is connect to Azure, or create a connection to Azure. Creating connection to Azure. Right, connecting the connection to Azure, and then paste it there. So as you can see, I got my key, I got my endpoint. Where do I get it from? I go to my resource, copy and paste it, and put it in between the inverted commas, right? So I got my connection to Azure sorted out. So now I'm gonna create my method. So it's quite a long method, but I'm gonna explain so that you get the hang of it, right? Whoa, so many lines of code. Right? So, but let's explain. So the first thing, as I said, we'll be working with async methods. What is an async method? I'm just explaining right now. So an async method is basically a method that has to work hand in hand with each other. It cannot go forward unless all the requirements are met, or it cannot go forward unless the other part of the method is finished executing. So they must go together, synchronized them together. So that's basically what a sync method is. They're working together in a single thread. So like that's like the whole technical term of it. But in simplicity, async methods are methods that just work together, as you can see, close hand in hand, right? So static async task. So I'll say creating a task, health example, right? So task is like a method, right? Static async task, health example. I put my client in the text analytics and object oriented programming basically. So what all the methods I'm going to access it to a client. So after creating the method or the task, I'm gonna create a document. So string document, and this is the document that I'm putting prescribed 100 grams of ibuprofen taken twice daily. So that's the text that I'm gonna be using to extract information from, right? And then after that, creating a list. List string batch input is equal to new list. So this is basically creating a list. So whatever uh uh basically it's taking this whole statement and turning it into a list. So prescribed 100 milligrams ibuprofen taken twice daily. It's like putting it in the order of a list. Basically, that's what it's doing. It's putting in an order of a list, and we'll see why. So now after that, analyze health entities operation, health operation, right? So that's then the name of our method, or again object oriented programming in place. So this is like a whole method in the text analytics API, and we're calling it under the health operation variable, right? Is equal to await client but start analyzing healthcare entities async, right? So now we want to start analyzing the list that we put, right? So the name of our list is called batch input, right? Batch input. So it's gonna start analyzing everything in the list that we have, right? Start analyzing healthcare entities as sync. So they work hand in hand. So it's gonna create the list first, and then after creating the list, it starts analyzing. If it doesn't create the list, you're gonna get an error. It has to finish and then you start analyzing. That's how it works, right? And then I wait health operation, wait for completion async. So as I said, if it does not finish, it's gonna cause an error. So now that's the method that the name of the variable or the name of the method that is analyzing the healthcare entities in our list or document that we've just created. So now after analyzing, now we're gonna displayed display the results that we found after the analysis, right? I wait for each, right? Health analysis entity result collection. So now we're collecting the results. So that's what then this method is for. A health analysis entity result collection documents in page in health operation dot value. So it's collecting the value of the documents in the page. Basically that's what it means. And then we output the console.writeline results of Azure text analytics. So we'll be we outputting the result and the model. So we're outputting the model of the API that we used, documents in page.model version. That's the so we know which version we're using. It's easier to keep in train with. Skip a line, and then we start um, analyzing the entities in the health entities in the results that we found. Again, for each analyzed health care entity result, entities in document in page, right? So this is so much to grab in, but just read slowly, you'll understand it, right? So now it's analyzing the result in entities in doc. So where's entities in doc? Um, entities in doc. So in entities in the documentation that we have in document page. So it's all over here in this statement over here. If it does not have any entities, right? If it does not have entities, it's going to cause an error. So there's the error message. That's what it basically means. But if it has entities, right, it's going to output the text, the category, the offset, the normalized length, right? It's going to output the relation. It's going to output how is it related to the health, the role name, the entity, the text, the category, and yeah, everything that has to do, as you saw last time. I won't go through because it's too much. But simple as that. That's how the code is, right? And now, since we're dealing with static method, our main method, we're also gonna make it we're gonna make it async as well, because I said it has to complete first, and then it's able to do the next one. They work hand in hand. One has to be completed before the next one continues, right? Static async task main, right? And I'm gonna call the client and put in my input. Basically, as simple as that. And save it. This one's a bit complicated. Save it and let's run it and see what happens. If you have any questions with this one, just put it down in the chat. I'll be sure to answer it. And let's see our results, right? Right. Results of Azure Text Analytics for Health Async method. So that's the version 2021, May 15. So that's like last week was updated. Entity 100 milligrams, category dosage, offset 11, length 5, normalized text is ibuprofen. It falls under medication name. Uh, Entity taken twice daily. That's how the frequency, how often it must be taken. So we found two relations in the document, right? I explained this in the previous episode. If you want more information, you can just take a look at it. Dosage of medication, role name medication, frequency of medication. So those are the two entities that it found, which is really cool. So if you want to create something for your doctor friends or someone who's studying medicine, these are the tools that you can use to get started with, basically. And again, we'll leave it on our GitHub repository for you to have access to. Get your own key and get your own endpoint. So this one was a bit tricky. Like I said, we went from easy to hard. Get your own endpoint. I'm gonna save it and upload it to GitHub so you can get started. Upload to GitHub. It's uploading, it's uploading, it's uploading. Let's check on GitHub if it's uploaded and refresh the page. Text analytics for health is public again, right? Text analytics for health. So now we're gonna do our last program for the day. Well, it's been a lot to grasp for one session, I have to say. But yeah, we've reached um the last the last program, which is the text summary. It summarizes text basically. Right? It summarizes text. Uh, create a new project. Right? Create a new project, and then text summary, content application. And name it text summary. Text summary. Next. .NET 5.0. So this one is a bit different. I'll show you how when you're doing this basically. If you don't understand it, please be sure to leave a comment, because you cannot do this without understanding code. You always have to understand your code. You have to understand what exactly it does. That's why I'm going through this, so you clearly understand the code as well. So you get packager manage console, right? Azure.ai. Azure.ai. Browse, my bad. We almost finished. And then, so for this one, there's version 5.1.1. We're gonna be dealing with the latest version. So we're gonna click include pre-release, right? Click, be sure to select include pre-releases, right? So now it says Azure AI the technologies, but now look here, it says version 5.2.0. That's why we're gonna look for. Be sure to use the latest version 5.2.0. Install it in your application. Install. It's installing, right? Install, accept, right? Accept. So now we're gonna call our using namespaces again, using system, using system, using Azure, using AI.text analytics, using system.grading task, and using system.collection.generic, right? So that's the first thing we did. And now we're gonna create a connection to Azure. Connection to Azure. Put one more bracket there. Right, connection to Azure. And I'm gonna create a connection, private read only. So you can only read, cannot do anything, private read only with our endpoint and our key, right? So that's our connection to the endpoint. I will explain this part again. We'll quickly move forward. And now I'm gonna create a method again. So this one is quite long, similar to the other one that we did previously for the help, right? So the bigger the task, the more the code. Simple as that. The bigger the task, the more the code. So static async task. So this is the task, and again, an async method, an async task. Text summarization example. Text analytics client. Again, object oriented programming. Again in play. And then this is the document that I wanna analyze, right? So string document, it's here. This is the text that I wanna summarize basically, right? And then there's a note here: prepare and analyze operation input. You can add multiple documents to this list and perform the same operation to all. So as I said, it's gonna create this document here. It's gonna put it in the form of a list so that it can analyze it one by one, so that you can get the summary as you saw from with the health analytics. It put it into a list, and then it starts the analysis of it basically. So after doing that, we say text analytics actions is equal to text analytics, right? So now these are actions that we want to happen in our to our document basically. Extract summary action is equal to new list extract summary action. So we want to extract, right? So the name of our action that we want to do is extract summary action, new list inside our list. So basically this action is gonna give us a summarized list. That's how it basically means. It's gonna give us a summarized list so that we can output, or it's gonna also give us action to a list of actions to summarize. Basically, that's what it means, right? And then it's gonna start with that and summary and analysis, right? Start with the summary analysis. Analysis action operation is equal to await client. So if it that part doesn't finish, it's gonna cause an error. It has to complete before it goes to the next one. Await client start analysis action. I think batch input. So I put the input and the action, right? So here's the list of action. Here's the input that we want to work with, right? And then wait for it to complete. So after it's completed, it's gonna tell us when it was created, when it was expired, and the status of this analysis and the ID of this analysis. So these are the details of the analysis that's gonna output, and then after that, it's gonna output the results, right? It's gonna tell us the value of the results, the value of the summary that is going to tell us the value of the summary that it has found. So after going through the list, it's going to tell us the value of the summary that it has found, and then read only is going to read only from you see the list of actions that we have is only gonna read from it, right? Read only, extract summary results in document page that extract summary results. So it's gonna read only and it's gonna extract the results from it. Basically, that's what it means. So after extracting the results, it's gonna put in the for each. If it has an error, it's gonna output the message that it has an error, right? And it's gonna output the error message. That's what it's gonna output. But if it does not have an error, it's gonna output the following thing. Extracted the following, and the count of the things that it extracted or that it summarized, and then I put the sentences that it summarized in basically. So input list is gonna analyze, and then it's gonna summarize, and then after that it's gonna output the results. It's gonna output the summary of the text that you found, of the text that you entered. It's simple as that. Um, that's a whole lot to explain. And then last but not least, we are going to um, call our async method again. Didn't do that correctly. Range async main method. So static async task main method, var client endpoint credential, put my endpoint and the credential, and I call my method. So this was a lot to grasp in. And now let's see it run to the end of the episode. End of the episode. Right. So analyze operation is completed. So it's giving us feedback that it has completed. So it was created on the 29th of December at 9:57. It expires on the 30th of December. The ID that's been given, and the status that it has succeeded. So now out of the text that we entered in the document, it extracted 3 4 sentences. The executive summarization features natural language processing to locate key sentences in unstructured, right? This feature is provided as an API for developers, and in the public preview, Express Summaries supports several languages, right? So now it from that whole bunch of paragraphs, it expected just 3 sentences to tell us everything about that paragraph, basically. Simple as that. And I tried it on with my assignments for school, my documentation for my application and stuff like that. It summarized it all in one thing, which was pretty cool. So to end off AI Tuesday, which was a long episode, um, I want to upload it to GitHub. Um, get your own key and get your own endpoint. Get your own save and add to source control, create and publish, right? Create and publish. And let's go to GitHub, refresh. There you go. So we did seven over there, which is a lot. So all of these projects are now available on our GitHub repository. All you have to do is create your repository your resource on Azure, get your endpoint, and just paste it where I say get your own keys and endpoints. Simple as that. And and to end off, so let me close this one, which was I hope it was a lot to take in, but yeah. So we finish with natural language understanding. We've done extracting information on Azure and using code, classifying text, right? We've done all of this. And now, for the future episodes, we'll be moving on to answering questions using a chatbot, understanding conversation, which is Lewis. And for next week, we're gonna do translate text. We're gonna make our own translator using the natural language understanding or NLP, which is I'm looking forward to it basically. And then after that, we're gonna move on to Lewis. It is a lot of exciting things are about to happen, so you wouldn't want to miss out, right? And there you go. It's been quite a long episode. I hope you get a lot from it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, please be sure to leave comments and be sure to reach us out on our social media pages. And tomorrow, as we are about to conclude the new year, we have Azure and Donate Friday with Tori. As we continue more about GitHub, we started it, so we're now going to build on upon what we spoke about last time. So from my side, yeah, the Inspire SA and the rest of the team, wish you a good. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening, and see you again tomorrow. Peace.